So if you're not familiar already, there's a great magazine as well as website called 5280. Denver is the mile-high city, meaning we're at 5,280 feet, and this magazine and website is all about everything in Denver. So today on this video, I'm going to be doing something a little bit different. 5280 puts out every year their top 25 Denver neighborhoods. So on this video today, I'm actually going to share with you guys their top 4 that they've picked out as their top neighborhoods in Denver. This is actually for this last year. I agree with some of their choices, but not all of them. So I'm really excited to share all of this with you guys. So stay tuned. All right, so as I said, today's going to be all about this 5280, really popular Denver website and magazine, sharing with you guys their top 25 Denver neighborhoods, specifically what they've identified as their top 4. I don't agree with all of these, but I think they're definitely going along the right path here on which ones they've identified as being some of the best. So I'm going to go over all 4 of these with you today. But before we get started, as always, my name is Adam, licensed realtor here in Denver, Colorado, and all that info down below. Would love a chance just to connect with you guys and provide some extra value to you. I know I got a few things I can share with you that might help you if you are considering moving here to Denver, Colorado. But enough of that. Let's go ahead and get started. Again, my top 4 neighborhoods that have been identified by 5280 magazine. All right, so jumping right into the number 1 neighborhood in all of Denver out of 25 that they had to choose from. It was actually more than 25. I think there's like 76. But the top 25 that they identified, number 1, by no stretch of the imagination, is going to be Washington Park, or as the locals call it, Wash Park. Now, Wash Park is definitely one of these areas that pretty much everybody in Colorado is going to be aware of and know about. And if you don't know about Wash Park yet, I guarantee you will after this video. So Wash Park is great for a lot of reasons, but for my probably top reason why I personally really enjoy going over to the Wash Park area is it's got a great location and it's got an incredible park, Washington Park, that is definitely one of the most acclaimed parks here in Denver. Wash Park is definitely on the more expensive side, so it does have this blend of newer custom homes, but mostly are you going to find are the older kind of bungalow 1900s, 1920s homes that a lot of these though have been drastically improved. A lot of times you'll see it's called a pop top, where they've popped the top and made, the square footage on these older 800 to 1,000 square foot homes. Now they're 2,000, 2,500 or more square feet. So you are going to see a lot of that, as well as I said, just new construction, because what happens is a lot of these older homes, they just realize that there's just too much work to be done. So they'll scrape it and then they'll just build a much larger home on that footprint. I think one of the other reasons why Washington Park is always going to be at the top of the list in Denver is not only the Wash Park specific area, but what it's surrounded by. So Cherry Creek, Platt Park, Spear, there's a lot of areas that are right around Wash Park that are also some great spots to check out. Great restaurants, great walkability with different stores, a lot of really good parks, as I said earlier, and it's just a very convenient location if you are commuting to downtown Denver for work, or if you just want to be more centrally located in Denver with a pretty easy drive no matter which direction you're going. Being pretty close to some major roads like Colorado Boulevard, you have easy access to get over to I-25, which will get you down south to the Denver Tech Center, or just a short drive north up to the downtown Denver area. But again, I think what makes Wash Park specifically so special is Wash Park, the actual park. A lot of the homes that are the nicest in the entire area are just on the surrounding road around the park, along with maybe 1 or 2 blocks off of the park. So obviously it's not hard to figure out why Wash Park is so great. It's the park itself. Wash Park is one of the largest in Denver, and I really like it personally because it has a really great blend of open space since it is so large, but also it's got this unique social aspect to it. Unlike some of the other parks, especially in more of the suburb areas, Wash Park just has so much density. So a lot of people that are in that area, which allows you to have really big gatherings, for example, intramural sports. On a Thursday night in the summer, head over to Wash Park in the evening and no joke, I bet you will see almost 100 volleyball courts. They put them up everywhere. There's tons of people out playing. Again, a really good social scene. So I think that's one thing that makes Wash Park unique compared to a lot of the other smaller parks that just don't get that same level of interest that it does here at Wash Park. As you can imagine, being surrounded by other areas that are very well known like Cherry Creek, you're going to see very high price points in Wash Park. I oftentimes have clients that I'm taking over to see, different single family homes, but also townhomes and condos. And Wash Park is always on the list of anybody that's curious and wants to maybe move to Denver. When I ask them some of the areas they're interested in, almost always Wash Park is a top contender on their list. The one thing that sometimes deters people is just the little bit of a wow moment when they realize just how expensive real estate has gotten actually in Wash Park. So, if you're on a little bit of a budget, and by budget, I say if you're looking for homes that maybe are below $1 million, especially for single family homes, it's going to be pretty slim pickings actually in Wash Park. You might have to stretch it out a little bit outside to areas, again, like Platt Park, or maybe even a little bit further out, which are some really cool areas still that I'm actually going to also highlight in this video as well as in other future videos. Areas like Montclair, Hilltop, and even some of the spots around University. So lots of neighborhoods all around Wash Park, which makes it, a great spot to consider. So even if you don't have a price point that might directly fit into Wash Park, I guarantee you can still find areas that are close enough where it's just a short, 5-minute bike ride, or potentially even just a little bit longer of a walk just to get over to the park itself. So with the 5280 grading system, they also take into consideration things like schools and even just safety. These are things that as a realtor, I always try to push back onto my clients and let you make your own decision on what you feel is or isn't safe, for example. So I'm not going to go into depth on that, but I will recommend checking out, and I've done this before in other videos, recommending a website called niche.com. That's another great resource if you want to check out some of the school ratings as well as some of the safety talk when it comes to specific neighborhoods and what the level of safety is there. So definitely check that out. And that's also, I think, how 5280 did some of their research on this. But when it comes to schools, they have some great options, especially elementary schools in Wash Park. One of my really close friends from high school, she's actually a teacher at one of these schools called Steele Elementary. And the high school in this area is going to be south. So one thing in Denver that's, pretty easy to remember is when you're looking at the different high schools in the Denver specific area. So a lot of times it's actually going to be high schools that are very easy to remember, like North, East, and then in Wash Park, it's actually going to be feeding into South High School. A lot of these schools back in the day when I was in high school, I went to Wheat Ridge, which is on the western side of town, but a lot of the high schools back in the day in Denver, specifically like South and also East, did not have the best just reputation when it came to just grades and just the overall school. Definitely check it out because I think those are going to be really drastically different from how they used to be. And you're going to find a lot of these are actually really good schools now. So again, do your own homework, but I just wanted to make that point that Wash Park has some very highly rated schools if you are somebody that's considering this area and you might have younger people in your family that are going to be going to school. So one last thing before we move on, definitely check out Bonnie Brae. Bonnie Brae has a really, really popular ice cream parlor, and it's just a staple when it comes to Wash Park. Definitely one of the businesses that most people recognize when in the area. So definitely check that place out if you got a sweet tooth and you want to maybe take a little break if you're checking out homes or at least the neighborhood here in Wash Park. All right, so that was number one. I know I probably should be going in reverse order to build up that climax and really have that final one that I share with you guys, the number one, but I'm not going to do that to you guys today. I'm just going to go through the top four. So number one was Wash Park. Number two in this 5280 top 25 neighborhoods, number two is going to be an area that I love, which is the Berkeley neighborhood. So as I said earlier, I grew up on the west side of town in Wheat Ridge, and Wheat Ridge is very close to some of the areas that Berkeley encompasses, specifically a very popular walkable shopping district known as Tennyson. So I'm 41 years old, so when I grew up in Denver, we actually had the original Elitch Gardens, which is now known as Six Flags, which is just, a huge amusement park that we have in Denver. The original location for Elitch Gardens at the time was really close here to Tennyson and the Berkeley neighborhood off of 38th. And I just have so many memories of just going through this area as a kid and actually going to Elitch's. And as I just said, Elitch Gardens, they had some amazing gardens back in the day that really just had this unique aspect to it. And I miss it. I think it was a really cool staple to the city of Denver back in the day. But now we have a lot bigger and, more new and updated amusement park known as Six Flags. So definitely check that out if you guys are, into that sort of thing. But also, I would recommend look online up Six Flags, or more specifically, Elitch Gardens, and you can see some of these old pictures and videos of what it looked like back in the day. But going back now to the Berkeley neighborhood, this Tennyson Street is definitely an area that I recommend to a lot of my out-of-state clients that are considering moving here, and they're asking me about certain neighborhoods that are just really great for walkability. And Tennyson is definitely top of my list for walkability. And I really also like this Berkeley neighborhood as a whole because it has another great park that encompasses a large chunk of the Berkeley area. So this main park that I'm talking about is just called Berkeley Lake and Park. And you can actually see it when you're on I-70 driving through, I-70 goes west to east. So when you're on I-70, you can look off and actually see this park. There's some really cool homes surrounding part of this lake. And it's, again, within walking distance of the Tennyson shopping district. What I also like about Berkeley is it's a little bit outside of that congested part that is so popular on the western side of Denver that is made up of Highlands, Sloan Lake, Sunnyside, and Jefferson Park. So that kind of section of Denver that's just west of I-25, right near the Broncos Stadium and actually where the new Elitch Gardens Six Flags is located. But that area has become so popular in the last 15, maybe even 20 years, and just become very, very popular, very expensive. People in the day a couple years ago were really overpaying for homes in that area because of the popularity. Because of that, it's slowly grown out further and further. And I think Berkeley and this Tennyson area are still so close to that you really have easy access. If there's specific restaurants, for example, in Highlands that you love to go to, you're still within, a 5-minute drive to that area, but you're a little bit further north and west where you're able to have a little bit more breathing room. The lots tend to be a bit bigger, and you are still going to find that same style of homes where it's a combination of older bungalow style homes, maybe not quite as old as some of the areas, like I said, in Highlands or even over in Wash Park, where it's 1900s bungalows. A lot of the homes in Berkeley might be a little bit newer, maybe 1920s to 1950s, but you'll still see that great kind of fun mix of those older homes. And then right next door, you might find a brand new, home that was scraped and built a beautiful new, $2 million plus home on it. So, for homes or for neighborhoods, I love walking through some of these areas in Berkeley and just admiring all the different types of homes and just, how much diversity there is when it comes to the architecture in Berkeley in that Tennyson area. And if you are somebody that really wants to be in the thick of it, where you can just walk down the street or even, just across the street to some of these bars and restaurants on Tennyson, there's also quite a few townhomes. I have had a lot of mixed feedback from clients when I've shown them these areas. For one, a lot of the condos and townhomes are actually facing Tennyson, so there is a bit of street noise, and sometimes people want to be a little bit further removed from that level of hubbub as far as just being right in it. So, a lot of people prefer to maybe be a block or two off of the main strip, Tennyson. And with Berkeley, there's a lot of great options. You can also, be just maybe a half a mile away and have some of these parks that I was mentioning and still be within a bike ride to some of your favorite bars and restaurants. When it comes to schools, kind of similar to what I said with Wash Park, I'm not going to go into depth, but I will share with you that North High School is what feeds into this Berkeley and Tennyson area. It's also becoming a much more respected high school in the last 20 years since I was in high school back in the day. And there's also an elementary school known as Centennial that's got really good ratings on niche.com. So definitely check that out if that's something that's important to you. Now, kind of going along the same lines again about safety, do your own homework. But when I looked online on the 5280, their article about these top 25 neighborhoods, one thing that they said was how, Wash Park is similar to this as well. Any of these more urban areas tend to have a little bit higher crime rates than areas that are maybe further out and more removed from the dense areas of Denver and especially downtown. So, we're looking at like safety and crime reports. A lot of times you'll find areas that are a little bit further out, such as more suburbs like Lakewood, Wheat Ridge, Golden. Typically, you won't see quite as high of rates as you will in areas that are closer in to the city like Wash Park or here with the Tennyson Berkeley area. On a more personal note, one other last thing I'll share with you about this Berkeley area is it is an area that really needs to be seen in person. So if you're looking at houses and you see a home that just looks great, you see it's in the Berkeley neighborhood, you're on Zillow, all you can really see is the interior pictures and maybe a couple of the backyard. What I will say is definitely go see it in person, get your boots on the ground and see it in person, because a lot of times there's areas that are really close on the far eastern side of Berkeley that are bordering the Federal Boulevard, which tends to have a little bit more just traffic and, in my opinion, not quite as nice as some of the areas in Berkeley that are a little bit more west. So definitely there's some areas, in my opinion, that are a little bit nicer than others. This goes for really almost any neighborhood in Denver, but I think especially with Berkeley, definitely take that into consideration. And then also, since I-70, one of our main highways of Denver, since it's kind of going right through this area, there's some homes that tend to have a little bit higher level of noise than you might be used to. So again, this is something that's really hard to get across on pictures on Zillow. So it really needs you to be out here on the ground to see it, or work with a realtor like myself. I always love going out and previewing homes for my out-of-state clients and giving them some of this feedback that you really can't see or tell some of these other senses until you have somebody seeing it in person. So just want to throw that out there. If you guys ever need anybody to do that for you, I'll put my info again down below. Would love for you to connect with me and reach out. So now jumping into number 3, first we had Wash Park, then we had Berkeley. At number 3, we've got South Park Hill. So South Park Hill is known just for its tree-lined streets, really good mix of housing, and then also some great parks. It's also an area that is, I think, really seen a big improvement over the last decade, where it's seeing a lot of development and just a lot of money being invested into this area with builders and developers, really seeing a lot of improvement with not only the homes, but also just the shopping centers, what restaurants are available, all that good stuff. So this area, South Park Hill, it's located near North Park Hill, obviously, but also areas like Stapleton and Montclair. It also has a really good location when it comes to ease of getting in and out of that area of South Park Hill. You know, some really busy roads like Colfax and also Colorado Boulevard. Parts of the day, especially around rush hour, this can get pretty bogged down. So depending on where you need to go for work or just what time of day you need to be traveling on the roads, this could be a deciding factor if this is a good spot for you or not. And if you are a family or just somebody that might be an animal lover, what I love about South Park Hill is it's super close to some great Denver attractions like the Denver Zoo and also the Denver Museum of Natural History. So if that's something that's important to you, having a little bit of culture that's close by to your home, definitely one of the best spots for you to check out is this South Park Hill area. Now this area also has a little bit more of a mix of types of homes. You have those same older homes like we've been talking about with the last two, with Wash Park and also with Berkeley. But I like with South Park Hill, you're also going to find a little bit more new construction and a lot of mid-century ranches. So some of these homes have a little bit larger lots, so you're going to find a few more ranch-style homes. And again, there's a lot of influx in new construction and just development in this area. So also going to be able to find a lot of options if you're more focused on new construction or homes that have only been lived in for a couple years. On the 5280 data that they shared, they actually also made this their top 5 neighborhoods because for safety, it actually ranked as one of the safest neighborhoods in all of Denver. Again, follow 5280's full article to learn a little bit more about that, but they had very high ratings for that, which put them at the top of this list. And when it came to schools, this is an area that feeds into East High School, which has become a very popular school in the last, decade or so, and getting very high academic scores, and definitely one of the high schools in the Denver area that a lot of people put at the top of the list. So do your own homework on that. As I've said a few times, don't mean to sound like a broken record, but East High School is definitely a great option if you do have some younger people in your family that are going to be going to school. So one last thing before we move on. I love having really great parks that are easy access to wherever I'm living. I love taking my dog Charlie out for walks in the evening, but also just having additional free open space to go enjoy. With South Park Hill, I just feel like you don't have quite as much of that as you do in some of these other Denver neighborhoods. So if it was me and this was my list, I don't know if I'd have South Park Hill in the top 5, much less number 3 out of the entire list. I'd probably still have it in the top 10, but I think that's the one thing that it's lacking a little bit is having a little bit more park accessibility. As I said, it is really close to the Denver Zoo and the Denver Museum of Natural History. So you have some great parks in that area, like City Park, as well as you're still very close within a short drive to Wash Park and a lot of these other areas we've been talking about. But I think South Park Hill specifically, just something to keep in mind. Park Hill actually used to be a golf course back in the day that has been redeveloped into some of this newer portion of the Park Hill neighborhood. And actually my grandpa, when he was alive, was a marshal, kind of like an ambassador out at this golf course. So we played here a bunch as a kid, and it's just been crazy just to see, again, this drastic improvement and transformation of this entire area. So definitely an area to check out. And with that, let's go ahead and talk about the final of the 4 neighborhoods today that 5280 put on the top of their list. So number 4 is an area that's known as Congress Park. As the name suggests, obviously this one has a park very close to it, Congress Park. This park's cool because it not only has open space, but also actually has a swimming pool, some tennis courts, and this is another area that's close to Wash Park and the other areas we've been talking about with that very popular side of Denver, close to Cherry Creek, and also Cheeseman Park and City Park, which we just talked about, which is close to the Denver Zoo and all that good stuff that South Park Hill has access. And another great thing about this Congress Park area is it is really, really close to the Botanic Gardens. So the Botanic Gardens are a very popular and well-known botanic garden that we have here in Denver. I actually have a family member that worked there, and she actually still works there, but has just always been a place that I've known about and never really gone to as much as I should. But going into the final few months of the year as I film this video, Christmas time is an incredible time to go to the Botanic Gardens. Tickets sell out actually way in advance. Right now it's October. You'd be buying your tickets soon if you even want to go for the Christmas time. It gets that popular and busy. Tickets sell out very quickly, but it's an awesome place to go just because they have this cool blend of the Christmas lights, but then also featuring all of the different, unique flowers and plants and all the stuff that the Botanic Gardens has to offer. So this area also feeds into East High School. So similar to South Park Hill, a very popular and highly rated school for high school. Again, on niche.com and on the 5280 website as they're talking about all these neighborhoods. Cheeseman Park is also in this Congress Park area, and another park that is super popular and definitely one that's not quite as well known as the Wash Park and Sloan Lake, the bigger parks in Denver, but definitely I think most of my friends that are in the Denver area around here, I'd say that's probably one of their absolute favorite parks to go to. So definitely, if you're in this area, definitely check out Cheeseman Park. And also, just talking again about just the location of Congress Park in this area, really cool homes. Again, a lot of bungalows, that older style mixed with, some very mature trees on the streets. So just you have a sense of a mature neighborhood, which I think is a great just aspect of the community in really all four of these areas that I've been sharing with you guys today, because you just have this additional level of just maturity with walking down the street and seeing, a lot of green, and it just doesn't feel like a new construction community sometimes can feel like, where there's just concrete jungle and not really much, if any, of that type of, natural habitat. So for me personally, that's a big thing for me. I love just having, nature around me. And I think with Cheeseman Park and specifically Congress Park, you're going to find a lot of homes and neighborhoods that are really going to be very mature and well presented when it comes to the greenery and just that Mother Nature aspect. All right, guys. So again, number 1, Wash Park. Number 2, Berkeley. Number 3, South Park Hill. And number 4, Congress Park. Hope you guys got a little bit of value out of this. I know I went through this quickly. I really wanted us to do a high level quick summary of the top 4 areas that 5280 put down as their top 4 out of all of the Denver neighborhoods. Want to hear what you guys think. Do you agree? Do you disagree? I would love just to get your own personal feedback. I'll also be sharing some additional neighborhoods from this list of 25 with you guys in future videos, so make sure you stay tuned for that. And I have already other video content on my channel, so make sure you guys, if you haven't yet, hit that like and the subscribe button. Go to my channel and you can search through all of the past videos. I've already got some really good, more in-depth content on these different areas like Berkeley, also just like Cherry Creek area, Wash Park, all that good stuff. So if you guys want more specific details on any of that, that's where you can find it. And as always, guys, I just love connecting with you. Enjoy you guys watching my content every single week. So I appreciate it. And until next week, hope you have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you then.